Hello, everyone. Namaskar. I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you, Rupal, India Student Hub, for having me over to speak about a topic which is so dear to my heart. Rupal said, maybe I should just introduce myself a little. Uh, I, I am, I've been an academic. I'm a life coach, and more now a speaker uh, on different things, about life and its various aspects. So many people, uh, everybody, in fact, is in a quest for happiness. And we are all uh, doing several things, various things, because we want to experience happiness. But what is happiness? You know, ask yourself, what is happiness? Happiness is a state of being, where you're joyful and you're full of positivity, and that is the state that most people want to be in, and yet it seems to slip away for everybody at most times. I think the question to ask is, why does this happen? Is happiness actually so elusive? I don't think it is. I think happiness is within our grasp. We should just feel uh, and be aware of the things that we can do to access that state of being of happiness. And people, you know, um, in the material world that we are living in, or in the capitalistic world that we are living in, most people try to buy various things to achieve, some sort of happiness. For example, if I think that if I get that particular job, it could be a job, it could be a position in society, it could be something material. So I have a friend whose dream was to buy a Fortuner. The Fortuner costs about 40 lakh rupees in India. And it was his dream to buy one. And when he got it, he was ecstatic. He was so happy. He said, come, we'll go for a drive. Let's go and, come and experience the car. So we all went for a drive, and he was really happy. And he would not let anybody, no one else could drive that car, not his wife, not his driver, not the most experienced person. And he would clean the car every day with a soft cloth like a baby, it was his baby. And so this was like a few weeks after he bought his car. His neighbor bought a very snazzy red Porsche. And they were friends, so he called him over. He said, come and take a look at my new toy. And we'll go for a drive. So he goes over, and he makes all the right noises. Wonderful, congratulations, this is such a fabulous car, and all of that. And then he comes home and looks at his Fortuner, and he suddenly isn't that happy with it anymore. He says, yeah, okay, I got a car and it's fine. So that happiness that he got spending so much money on that one object, that happiness was fleeting, because as soon as he saw something that he felt was better, or it was more elitist, his joy just evaporated. I'll give you my own example, of I was working towards my PhD. And luckily for me, I chose a topic that I was passionate about. It was a feminist topic. And I really enjoyed the whole process of reading and learning so much. And every now and then I would share things with my family that, oh, look at this marvelous thing I read. So I was enjoying the journey. And I was doing the PhD for myself. it was just something that I wanted to do for myself, that that I could also do it, you know. And and at the end, when I got my PhD, when I was declared a doctor, I was happy, but it wasn't that big of a deal. It was okay. I mean, I was still the same person, you know. It didn't change anything for me. So all these things, they're fleeting. I think what what made the difference was the way people now looked at me. You know, they thought that with these two letters in front of my name, um, I was this very academic, intellectual person, and I was still the same person, you know, who had perhaps read a little more. Uh, so for me, the PhD didn't really mean that much. It was something I had promised myself I would do, in spite of the million and one challenges that one faces as a PhD research scholar. As you know, some of you who are doing your PhD and are currently on this journey will say yes to that. Yes, there are a million and one things that one has to overcome, but one does it. And what I'm saying is that the goal, when your goal becomes something like this, I think the happiness is transitory, you know. And there are several ways that one can have access. I'm saying access because, well, it is accessible to us. So there are several things that one, several ways one can have access to happiness. There are about 4 or 5 things that I have thought about. And I think the first one is that, you know, always involve yourself in, do something that you love doing. Don't, if you're studying something, for example, you all are students, study something that you love, so that when you have to work hard for it, you enjoy it. It's not work for you, it is more enjoyment. Always have something that, apart from your studies, that you love doing. You know, it could be singing, it could be dancing, it could be going for a run, all of these things. Because anything that gives you joy is something that you should have with you whenever you need to have that access to happiness. Sometimes you may be very tired with what you're doing, and you need to access happiness in a different way. Then you do the other things, you know. My perk me up or pick me up is singing. So each time I feel a little down in the dumps, I sing. And instantly I sing a happy and chirpy song, and I'm up just like that, you know. And so you have to find what your pick me up is, and do that with your heart and soul. Because when you do it with your heart and soul, you reach that level of happiness, which is absolutely wonderful and elevating. The second thing that I think one can do is be of help to someone. You know, it could be as easy as helping, you know, an elderly person cross the street, and or, you know, you're walking, you're in a hurry to go somewhere, sorry, and you know, someone's grocery bag falls and everything spills out, and you're in a hurry, but you take the time to help the person put the things back in the bag. So you're doing these things without any expectation in return. You're not doing it because it'll look nice on your job application or on your college application, you know, for those, because a lot of things that young people get involved in is so that it looks good on their college application. So when you do it without any expectation in return, and the kind of happiness that you experience at that point, it's like a warm glow in your heart, you know. And that it is that warm glow that we should keep lighted in us all the time, because that warm glow is the source of happiness also. In India, we call it seva. Everybody does seva in one form or the other. It could be as easy as making a cup for someone, a cup of tea for someone. Uh, in India, we have so many people who help us function normally. We have, you could just offer a cup of tea to them and, say, here, I've made a cup of tea. Why don't you have one too? And, or as simple as giving, a fruit to somebody on the street when you go out in any part of the world. Anything that is done, any service that is done with any expectation in return, no expectation, that is when that light, that warm glow lights up in the heart. In India, we have, in the Sikh tradition, we have, they go and do their seva in their gurudwaras. That is, it is whatever you do, whatever service you do, it all adds up to the lighting of that warm glow in your heart. And I think it is probably really easy to have access to that, because it is right there. You can, a little kindness to anyone, we're surrounded with people most of the time. So the chances to do this are immense. And yeah, so that is the second thing. The third thing that I thought about was, the Dalai Lama, who is one of the most positive and happiness radiating persons that I have ever met. He says that happiness is a choice you make. I'm paraphrasing. You become happy by the actions that you do. So this encompasses, what was my first point and second point: do what you love, do service, and also I think just the fact that when you are aware that you are feeling a little down in the dumps, someone said something nasty to you and you're upset, you're angry, and well, you don't know what to do with it. So the moment that you become aware that, okay, I'm upset, become aware that you have the power to change that feeling that you have. You don't have to go and load it off someone else. There is no need for that. You start doing the first two things that we spoke of. Go and do a kind act. Start doing something that you love doing. You like running? Put on your shoes right now and go for a run. Oh, it's raining. You can't. Okay. So many times things happen that the circumstances are such that you can't always exercise what you want to do. For now, we are living in a pandemic. There are many restrictions. People can't go to gyms. In some parts of the world, you can't even go out for a run. So then what do you do? Another way is to simply to sit down, take a pause, breathe, deep breathing, and think of a time when you were happy, a memory which brings, which fills you with joy. So any science also says that when you recall any memory in your heart which was joyful, it fills you up with positivity. And that is what you need, positivity. And when you start getting filled up with positivity, you affect the environment around you as well. So this is another way that you can you have access to happiness. um, it happens with all of us, that we are down at some point. We have worked very hard towards something, and the results that we are expecting is not the outcome of the hard work. So what do we do then? Take a pause, breathe. It's not the end of the world. uh, with every disappointment comes a learning. Embrace that learning, welcome that learning. That what and when you take a pause and just breathe and think, okay, what is my learning from this? And you can just, be very matter of fact about it. Okay, maybe I was supposed to learn, this was what I was supposed to learn from this experience. And you carry on. You can't let disappointments come in the way of your living a joyful life. Take notes. What is it that I was supposed to learn? Yeah, okay, this is what I was supposed to learn. Good. And get over it. Move over it. Move to the next thing. You're all students. I'm sure at some point or the other, you worked very hard, maybe for an exam, for a paper, and you didn't get what you thought you should get. Do the other things that one is supposed to do. Go speak to the teacher, to the professor, and ask, so how could I have improved it? That is part of the learning process, right? Apart from the other things that also come into play when we talk about what is it that we are supposed to learn. So these are all, very tangible ways of being happy. Also, excuse me. I'd like to just speak a little about gratitude. Gratitude is one of the finest human emotions that we can experience. It is right up there, when we list the emotions that we are that we are capable of feeling. Look around you. Look at yourself. If we can just be grateful for the fact that in this pandemic, we are breathing normally without a ventilator. We are able to walk, we are able to eat and do things that normal, healthy individuals do. That itself is reason enough to be grateful. Some of you are studying it, all of you, in fact, are studying in the US. But even, later on when people listen to the webinar, those who are studying, just the fact that you are studying, that itself is a huge thing, because not many people in the world are able to study the way you are studying. The family that you have, the friends that you have, there are 1,000,001 reasons to be grateful. So become a river of gratitude. You should have endless gratitude in you. And the moment you fill yourself with gratitude for all that you have, you experience not only happiness, but a tranquility that is beyond expression and measure. You could start with just, write down 3 things that you are grateful for. Write down every day 3 things that you are grateful for. Do it for 10 days. And you yourself will notice that there is a difference in you. There might be, you feel a little calmer and you're happy. That light, that warm glow is lighted and very much there in you. And when you feel that warm glow, you naturally want to just share it with everyone. Another thing is that, know that there is a soul a blissful consciousness that resides in all of us. And we are a tiny part of the big whole that is there. We are a tiny part of the superior consciousness or energy or God, whatever you call it, is there. In Hindu philosophy, we say the Atma, which is the soul, is part of the Paramatma. Paramatma is the all-pervading consciousness. So all of us are part of that. So if all of us are part of that, that would mean that all of us are equal. All of us are the same. It is just the bodies that we are in, the situations that we are born in, that cause these differences with all that is happening in all parts of the world. I don't want to talk about a particular country where differences are caused, hatred is there just because of the way we look, the class we come from. But it is most essential to realize that it is the same soul that resides in all of us, and not just human beings, even what we perceive as non-living entities. Just because we perceive them as non-living doesn't mean that they are. Science has shown us that our capacities are so limited. For example, the range of things that we can hear. There are sounds that a dog's ears can pick up and we can't. So just because we can't hear it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just because we don't see things doesn't mean that those things don't exist. We are extremely limited in our capacity. I'll just say one small incident or a story of which is there in the Bhagavad Gita. When Arjun asks Krishna, they're having a dialogue on the field of Kurukshetra, the battlefield, and he asks Krishna, show me your full form, because he has accepted that Krishna is the Lord. And he says, I want to see your Vishwaroop, your true form. And then Krishna says, well, you can't see it with your human eyes, because the capacity of the human eyes is very limited. So for this, I will have to give you yogic eyes. And he gives him yogic eyes and shows him his Vishwaroop, or his full form. And Arjun is bedazzled beyond compare. And he says, okay, I've had enough. I can't see this anymore. Even with the yogic eyes, it was difficult. So all I'm trying to say is that be open and be respectful. It is essential that we are respectful for not only the people we perceive as living beings, but also, those that we perceive as non-living. For some people, plants, trees, they're non-living. No, they're not. They are living. Even stones, rocks, just because we perceive them as non-living doesn't mean that they are. The possibilities are immense. In the tradition of the Indians in the US, each thing had a soul, had a spirit, and does. For them, every rock, every mountain has a spirit. So the purpose behind saying all this is, we have to start being respectful to every living and non-living entity that we come across. Human beings have been so greedy and ravaged, the planet just because they can, not because they need it. Mahatma Gandhi said that there is enough for every human's need, but there is not enough for every human's greed. So this, because of this greed that we have, we suffer the consequences, and yet we don't understand. As students, as our future generations, um, I think it is supremely essential that we all become aware. And becoming aware just adds to your happiness. It doesn't take away. Try to, when you go for a walk, just try to connect to a tree. That will fill you with a joy. If your channels are open, keep your channels open so that you are able to feel the kind of joy that nature shares with us unselfishly, without expecting anything in return. So all the things that I'm talking about right now have give you happiness, even though it could be a little fleeting. It is certainly better than going and buying things to make you happy, because that the moment you get your thing, you use it a couple of times, it becomes very ordinary. It doesn't give you joy anymore. But many people ask then, how can we experience eternal happiness? How can we be happy all the time, so that we are not affected, or not affected to such a great extent by our environment, by people who we come across? Because people who we come across, not everybody is the same. Some people have a lot of negative discharge. There are so many factors. You want a job, you didn't get the job you wanted. You were looking for a promotion, you didn't get the promotion you wanted. So all these things have the ability to take our level of happiness down a couple of notches if we are not connected. What is it that we are supposed to be connected with? In my limited experience, it would be connecting to your Atma, to your soul. Because the moment you are aware, the moment you are able to connect with your soul, that Atma, which is part of the Paramatma, the veils of ignorance get lifted on their own, effortlessly. It's effortless. You don't even have to think. And several realizations come in that moment. And one realizes the richness of experience in that connection with the Paramatma. It invokes a feeling of happiness, a joy, ecstasy that is like no other. I have never used drugs, but I don't think any drug could give you that kind of ecstasy, because that feeling is not from this world, is not from the things you get from material things. And I would say that the nectar that flows from that connection with the connection with the divine, it doesn't matter who your connection is with. If it is Jesus Christ, if it is Allah, it doesn't matter. If it is with the trees, it doesn't matter. It is the connection. And through that connection, we experience a sweetness, a happiness that I think even words can't describe. And our sages have said that those who do not know what yearning for that infinite is, they probably don't know what depths one is capable of feeling. Because that feeling, the depth of happiness that you feels as endless as the universe. I can just say that. So how do you do this? Learn how to breathe. Just that. Inhale, retain, exhale. I think it is easiest to do through pranayams, because and pranayam leads to the meditation, that state of mind where you are so, everything is so quiet. There is not a single thought that comes to your mind. That stillness, that is where you can meet your soul. That is where you connect with that part of a consciousness, a blissful consciousness that actually fills you with bliss. I don't know if you all might have heard the song by Kailash Kher, Maula Mere Maula. He says, he sings, मुझ में ही वो खुशबू थी जिससे तूने मिलवाया. That essence was that perfume that I was looking for was within me. You just introduced that essence that was in me to me. So our seers, the Bauls in West Bengal, so many people who have achieved this level of spiritual consciousness, the mystics, the sages, the saints, they all say that we don't need to go out looking for happiness. We don't need to travel to places to look for happiness, or to look for to being connected. What we have is enough. You just need to connect to it. I don't think we have the time to go on, but I would just like to introduce to you all. Some of you might know, some of you might not. So if you can look up this prayer by Adi Shankaracharya. He was born in the 8th century, and his prayers resonate in all the temples even today. And this is the Nirvana Shatakam, in which he says, Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. So Chidanand is a composite word, Chit meaning mind and Anand meaning bliss. Chit Anand, a mind in bliss, a blissful consciousness. Shivoham Shivoham is Shiva. Shiva is the first yogi. He is the first yogi. And when we say Shivoham Shivoham, it refers to that first yogi who has achieved that state of blissful consciousness. So in this prayer, all that he does is he takes off the layers that we all carry, like our identity, our emotions, all that we feel, that we are, our connections in this world, friends, mother, father. He takes apart each layer until what remains is just the blissful consciousness. And that is what he says, that is what we all are, blissful consciousness. We all have known it before. We just have to go back and reconnect to something that we have always known. It's reconnection to a superior consciousness that we are all a part of. And that, I think, is what I would like to share. That is the way to experience resplendent and eternal happiness. Thank you so much for taking out time and listening to me on, it's a Friday night, you know. Thank you, Rupal. Thank you, India Student Hub, Embassy of Washington, for inviting me to share what little I know of happiness. And yes, I'm ready for any questions that anyone might have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was really wonderful listening in, and actually it raised a lot of questions personally, as just as a student, like competition has made us so much outward looking, in the sense like looking out for happiness, looking out for how you are being viewed in the world in general, framing your own perceptions or your own ideas about yourself based on what someone else says. So I think this just helped us to reflect a little. And the note on which we are having this on a Friday, though it's a Friday night, it's an apt timing because we are just ending our summer volunteers program. We had almost 50 volunteers this summer with the India Student Hub, and all of them volunteers. We did not have any particular what you call as transactional, any certification, anything. Nothing was there, and they were surely over here because they wanted to be here and contribute in some small ways. So I'm sure they are going to have a lot of questions for you on this, especially in terms of looking ahead as in their lives and how do they find happiness within themselves rather than looking it up for it outside.
Yeah, thank you.
So we'll take questions in the set of 2 or 3 so that we can cover a maximum number of questions. So considering that we have 10 to 15 minutes more of our time, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I see Aditi ready to ask a question. Yes, sir, Mitra.
Hi, hi Mugdha, and thank you, Taruna ma'am, for your talk. I think this is something that I find quite interesting, thinking about how people usually think, and that is one of the things I've been thinking about for quite some time, like why in general. So, I was wondering if you could talk a bit about how would you view happiness versus contentment. So one is what you were talking about, and but the other is, I think, the other side of not being in the rat race is being content with whatever you have. So just like your views, if you view both of them the same, or is happiness different from contentment? And also, like slightly off topic, I was wondering, could you define how somebody like how would you define the word maturity? That if someone is mature, so that's again, I think happiness comes from the fact that you're not being angry, you're being like that's how you people use the word, that you're being mature about what your feelings are or how you're carrying yourself, and I think that's an extension of being aware of your own feelings. So these are two things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shramiti, for your question. Um, I feel that there is a very little difference between contentment and happiness. Happiness is perhaps a more exuberant form of, of content. Uh, Being content gives you a very calm sense of happiness, isn't it? That is my perception. If I am content with what I have, it gives me a tranquility. I'm not running after things. I'm not in pursuit of things, right? Happiness uh, is just a more exuberant form for me, I would say. And as far as your second question goes, maturity. I don't know if it is uh, if it is good to be mature. It is good to have, I think, a childlike simplicity most of the times, because being mature takes away from that. Being mature takes away from the joy of experiencing things. When we talk about being mature gives you a sense of acceptance also. you know as far as acceptance is concerned, fine. But if one relates maturity to being controlled, that you accept it and you're being controlled and you're not, I think that takes away from life. Be a little mature, but be childlike at the same time. I think that adds to the happiness that we are talking about. Thanks for your question.
Thank you, ma'am. I think we have a question from Cherry.
Thank you so much, Taruna ma'am. That was so interesting. My question is that currently, if a person is faced with any kind of hardships, right? How exactly should I motivate myself to work towards that hardship if things are not in my control? How do I face it, or how do I challenge the challenge that is in front of me?
Yeah, thank you so much, Cherry. Very nice to see you again. Thanks for your question. It's very important, of course, and especially in the pandemic and difficult times that we are living in. So I would say that I think we are all facing challenges these days. None of the things that we thought about have worked out the way we thought they would. Everybody's plans have gone for a six, including the most, the richest and the famous people, everybody, from the richest to the poorest. So I think what I talked about before was taking stock. What is it that I need to learn from this experience? Yeah, because everything happens for a reason. Everything happens in our lives for a reason. I don't know if you all believe that the pandemic also happened for a reason. I believe that it's, of course, it's very sad. We have lost so many lives, so many tragedies, personal in my life as well. But it is a moment of awakening for all of us. So without getting into the philosophical things, coming back to what you said, know that nothing lasts forever. And this too shall pass. When I was doing my PhD, I told myself this a zillion times. This too shall pass. The challenges that you face. Tell yourself that this too shall pass. But don't forget to be grateful for what you have. Don't forget to feel that gratitude. Don't forget to enjoy because joy is still there in the environment. Grace is still there in the environment. You just have to be open to receive it. The human soul is happiest in a state of expansion. When we are in a state of expansion, we are generous, we are kind, we are happy. When we are sad, we contract. We become small, we become petty-minded, we become jealous, all negative emotions. So every time you feel that you are in a state, and this, you can feel it physically. Every time you feel you're in a state of contraction, become aware. Oh, no, this is not good. Let me get into a state of expansion. Write down, be aware of all the things that one has to be grateful for. Fill yourself with gratitude, and you will see things resolve themselves. You just keep working at what you have to do. That's it. Thank you.
We will, I think, take a last two questions before we close out. Rupal ma'am, Arsam, any one of you? Yes, Aditi?
Sure, I can go ahead.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think we can take both the questions at the same time.
Arsam, why don't you start?
Okay, you can go ahead, actually.
Right. So this was really interesting, but I appreciate everything that you've said. I personally grapple with reconciling happiness with reconciling ambition. So you talked about how individuals shouldn't necessarily seek happiness out of like buying a better car or maybe getting a job, or getting a promotion at work and things like that. But then how do you reconcile having a sense of ambition and wanting to climb up a ladder, or the social ladder or corporate ladder, with like a sense of self and a sense of happiness?
Yeah, thank you for that very nice question. It's very deep. Just because I said that buying a car or buying material goods doesn't give you happiness, doesn't give you eternal happiness. It gives you happiness. Of course, it gives you happiness, because otherwise people wouldn't go around buying it. But what I'm talking about is it gives you fleeting happiness. That happiness is fleeting. You want to climb up the corporate ladder, please go ahead. Work hard. Do what you have to do. What I'm saying about happiness doesn't take away from being ambitious. Be ambitious, but be aware. Be aware that that is not the most important thing in your life. Be aware that that is not the source of eternal happiness. Go ahead. Of course, you should be ambitious. If we were not ambitious, we would not have many of the things that we have that make our lives comfortable. So happiness, connecting with yourself, doesn't take away, it adds. Be conscious that it adds. It adds happiness to you on your journey. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so very much for that articulate answer.
Thank you.
Arsun?
So my question was actually very similar to what Aditi asked, because sometimes it's harder, it's very easy to blur the lines between wanting a couple of things that are keeping you on track and giving you small rewards for small accomplishments, and you sort of blur the lines when your whole happiness just depends on that reward oriented nature. But then moving forward from them, and moving from that, and as a follow-up question to what you just said, like, I would think, is it even possible to be eternally happy? Like, if you're always looking for being happy, that it itself becomes very cumbersome and just takes so much of your energy trying to be always happy. So what are your thoughts on that?
Lovely question. I love it, Arjun. Thank you. You're right. If you're constantly pursuing happiness, it becomes very tiring. But it only becomes tiring when what you're pursuing is happiness, which is fleeting, which is through material things, or when your happiness depends on something that is external to you. When your happiness depends on something that is external to you, it is tiring. But when you look for happiness within yourself, when you are able to connect to yourself, that is not tiring at all, because you can just sit in one place and learn to connect and connect. It is not tiring. It is the most energizing, energy-giving, positive experience that full of bliss that you will have. Does that answer your question, Ansul?
It does. Thank you so much. Yeah, because I feel it sometimes we are always like, oh, I have to meditate, I have to yoga, and I have like a full calendar, and I just have to be happy, and sometimes it feels so overwhelming. So, but yeah, no, that what you said makes sense.
Yeah, I'd just like to add a little to that. This whole thing of, oh my God, I have to do yoga. Oh my God, I have to do meditation. Even when you're meditating, I think the worst thing you can do is say, oh my God, I want to do yoga, I want to do meditation because I have to find happiness in me. Let happiness be a byproduct, because what you are looking for, if you meditation is like this. Meditation is basically, it's control of the mind, right? Control of the mind, so that you reach that place of quiet where you control, where you connect with yourself. That is the essence of meditation. And when you connect to yourself, that is your connection to the superior consciousness. Now, if you think, oh, I need to meditate and I need to say Om 3 times and I need to do this, if you're frantic about looking for something, it will be elusive. It is the simplest thing to have access to. Happiness is not elusive at all. you know, it is very accessible. But when you meditate with just nothing, you know, just do whatever it is that you are supposed to do without thinking that I'm going to be happy if I meditate. Just do it. The happiness is a byproduct. The aim is to connect. But when you're meditating, you don't even think of that. Yeah?
Yes,
Thank
thank you for your answer.
Uh,
I'm
Ruby
gonna,
ma'am?
yep, I'm just gonna call this on time simply because it's been an incredible hour. I think the two things that really touched me was this Atma Paramatma kind of concept and idea, but especially this piece that you're talking about expansion versus contraction. I can actually feel that. I actually know what you're saying when you're like, the difference between feeling expansive and contraction. So thank you. I think especially for young folks who are aspiring to be actually like you in some capacity, to hear that it's actually right here. I don't have to go anywhere and do anything in particular to find sort of this kind of happiness that you're really sharing and talking about. Could we just ask you for any final words of thought and wisdom to close this out in gratitude to sort of all that we've learned today?
Thank you so much, Rupal. This has been wonderful. I'm so happy to meet the youth of our times, because they're all alive and alert. And all of you asked wonderful questions. It's been a wonderful experience for me, because giving is what, again, as Rupal said, giving takes you to a state of expansion. And I have a lot of things to be grateful for. You know, it's a bright, sunny day in New Delhi. The temperatures have gone down. We're still enjoying wonderful, delicious mangoes. And I'm here doing this webinar with wonderful people like you all. I'm so grateful. It has been a wonderful experience. I just hope that something that I said resonates with somebody somewhere. That is my only desire, that you have taken something from the session. I am a very, very ordinary person who is just aware. That's all. And all of you are aware, and you all have the power to be as happy as you want. Thank you. Have a gorgeous, beautiful, and blessed day. Well, it's evening, but for the rest of the day. Thank you.